Hey everyone, Egman here with another video, and we've got another Top 10 Tuesday, the second part of the Crossworlds Top 20 Tuesday, I guess, two-parter. Any other T alliteration we can do, but yeah, this set was completely flipped the game on its head. It had so much bonker stuff, and it really kind of was a turning point for me at least, because this is when I first got into the game, and really Bandai had to start thinking of how cards interacted with other cards in previous sets for like the first time. And but yeah, definitely was super crazy. Has a lot of good cards. Most of these cards are still being played today, being reprinted even, and I still think they're not going to have any lack of play moving forward. So without further ado, let's get into number 10.
Number 10.
First up, we've got the Masked Saiyan leader from the Dark Invasion Star deck. This is such a nostalgic leader and still sees some play today. Shoutouts to Eric, Crick God, my boy. Yeah, this is a pretty insane leader and pretty much like the first like overwhelm leader we had. And yeah, it just was kind of overtuned and was very aggressive for a really long time. And I think it's still going to be seeing play, and especially with all the new stuff coming out of set 10 where there's support for black leaders and kind of like filling your drop area. I think this could be a pretty good leader. But it has this active main: once per turn, place top 3 cards of your deck in your drop area. If you place a black card in your drop area with a skill, this card gains critical. If a card of any other color is placed in the drop area, this card also gets plus 5k power for duration of the turn. So just being able to fill your drop area, get crit, and plus 5k is pretty dang good. It wasn't very uncommon to have multicolor, especially since I don't even think when this card was released, there was 50 cards you can make a full black deck with. And then it was a life 4 less, draw 2, and then on the active main once per turn, same thing, you place the top 3 cards, crit and plus 5k, and then when this card attacks, draw 1. So just very powerful, especially if you do it like twice on the same awakening. This could be like a 25k crit leader. So powerful there. Being able to have like Champas on this leader as well, especially when we had both Champa and the Hidden Kai, so you could have like 8 double strikes in your deck. Just a lot of power here. And part of the reason this was able to overcome like a lot of leaders where you have to have like a +1 on the front side is that it can critical is mostly a +1 as long as you're swimming with your leader in so many ways. So a very good leader, and I think people are still going to be considering it today, and definitely one of the best leaders from this series.
Number 9.
Next up, we've got Fearless Pan, a 3-drop 15k blocker barrier, which were both pretty dang good keywords on a card, especially since if you need to have like a forcer blocker back in the day, if you put this card out, your opponent would have a really hard time getting rid of this without swinging. So just good on that, but also has this really nice auto of when you play this card, choose all of your other red leader cards and red battle cards and gain plus 5k and double strike for the duration of the turn. So just being able to play Pan and just give your entire board a boost is really good. And even if you if you can't go all in on that turn, it has a blocker barrier and you can kind of sit back and keep that safe there. So great card for that. It's also a Saiyan, so you could use like Shugesh to get this out. It's also 3-drop 15k, which also means that you can get it out with like Child's Wish. You can also get it out with Chain Attack Trunks as well. So like there's a lot of ways to cheat this card out as well. And just very, very aggressive, but just really a fantastic card. A little bit overstated, a little bit too much stuff going on, and definitely just a really good card for the previous meta, and still a good meta now. Especially it's an Earthling too, which is good coming up as well. And I think people are still going to be running this in the future.
Number 8.
For number 8, we've got Foosh Out and a Mystery, one of like the first big control end the game kind of cards. It's an overwhelm for 10 for 6 whole energy. So you can't really cheat this out. You have to get to 6. But once you do, it's a 30k with double strike and auto. When you play this card using Overwhelm, your opponent can't activate skills on cards other than their leader card until the beginning of your next turn. So that means no negates. It means no super combos. You can't even if you try to use a Champa on this, it doesn't activate still. You can it goes into pending, but it doesn't activate. That's how the ruling works. So this card, unless you have Cold Bloodlust, which guess what, doesn't exist really anymore, or not as prevalent. This card just pops down, just ends the game in so many ways, and just prevents your opponent from doing anything. So just a really good bomb card. People are still considering using this, especially in the right deck. If you're just a really big control heavy deck and you need a card to finish the game, this is fantastic for it. If it's turn 6, unless you're overwhelming a lot, you're probably gonna have 10 cards in your drop area, and then 6 just to play this boy. And he's a big 30k double strike too, so it's not like you can't just swing the game already. But making sure your opponent can't use any negates or really any cards in the field. They can't use blocker. They can't use anything against this, and just a fantastic card. And I still think people are going to be using it just to if they're playing these long games. And I still see in like side decks and everything. I think it's a fantastic card.
Number 7.
Next up, we've got Planet Vegeta. It hasn't been seeing as much play recently, but back in the day, this was just a stupidly good search. So it has 2 effects, and the first one is auto. At the end of your turn, switch all of your Great Apes in your battle area to active mode, which is kind of already okay. But like it also has this when this card is placed in your battle area, choose up to 1 Saiyan with an energy cost of 4 or less from your deck and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. There are so many Saiyans that are 4 or less that you can easily get, especially like back in the day. You can get like Shugesh, you can get pretty much any of the apes you want. You can just get any card you want for 1 energy. It's not color restrictive at all, which it should have been like at least restrictive to like yellow Saiyans, but it could get anything. There's so many cards that this could get. It pretty much tutored your entire deck for just 1 yellow energy. And if you're playing apes, you get the bonus effect of having everything back in active mode. Such a really overtuned card. Nowadays, 1 energy to find something isn't as broken, and maybe that just shows how far we've really come from it. But if you're running yellow and there's a card in your deck that you need to find, this is definitely at least a Saiyan with 4 or less that you really need to find. This is just a fantastic way to do so, and I just remember how hard to get like the foils were for it. I remember having one as well, and just such a really, really good card. You could whenever you were playing back then, at least one person was playing this, if not both. You could always see one on the field, and it's super funny that this had like this effect to it, and it definitely should have just been like search for a great ape with energy cost of 4 or less instead of just Saiyan, but they decided to go with Saiyan, and it just completely busted the game.
Number 6.
Here at number 6, the boy Chain Attack Trunks, one of the I don't know if infamous is the right word, but one of the breakout cards for this game for a really long time. It made red viable. Like this card single-handedly made red viable as a color in so many ways. What does it do? Evolve for 2 red on a Trunks GT, which it doesn't even have an energy cost restriction, so it can evolve on himself, which is crazy. But permanent, this card can attack battle cards that are in active mode, which most people kind of forget. I do all the time. But also, when you play this card, choose up to 1 battle card from your hand with power of 15k power or less and play it. So if you play, I don't know, Zeno, and you bust the game, and now that the phrase Chain Attack Zeno is just universally understood, this is just like a fantastically good card. It just had so much viability. It was kind of like the first, like the precursors to Child's Wish in a lot of ways, because you could just cheat out a bunch of stuff, and it was so easy to evolve this card too. In the set this came out with, there's some pretty good two drop Trunks GTs, and then in set 4 they made a 1 drop Trunks Intensifying Power GT, and it's also had like some it was a 1 drop that gained 15 plus 50 or plus 10k in crit as a 15k critter. So like you could just play it turn 1, your opponent probably can't get rid of it. Turn 2, swing with it, use its crit, have a 15k crit. Your opponent has to go do something about it, and then you can just evolve into this guy. If you need to go into Chain Attack, you can, or if you need to go into like a Pan, you can. Like this card had just so much viability, and there's so many cards that this card could get. It really did just make. If this card didn't exist, Red wouldn't have been viable for like an entire year. So just an incredibly powerful card, and it's still is a great card today too. Like being able to cheat out a 3-drop 15k for 2 energy. I think is super worth it, and definitely people are continuing to see. This is definitely seeing play still, and Chain Attack Zeno is still a thing that a lot of decks can't answer, and still can get crazy values sometimes. So as long as Chain Attack exists, Zeno is still a viable card.
Number 5.
Breaking into the top 5, we probably have one of the most beloved leaders from this set. It's this red Pan. And I think this is okay. There's more than one. I think this is the only red Pan. I know there's like a yellow Pan, but this is such a good card, and his aged so well. It's never been like unviable in so many ways, and it really is just because like this is one of the first cards that gained value, like draw power on the front side. So auto once per turn, when you play this card, choose that card, gains plus 5k power of duration of the turn. Then if its power is 20k power or more, draw 1. And then it's an untapped 2 at 4 or less. And then the awakened side, it draws when you swing, and then the same thing. When you play a battle card, choose that card, gets plus 15 or plus 5k power for the duration of the turn. Then if its power is 20k power or more, draw 1. So there are just so many good cards that, you can play for cheap, and they're 15ks and they become 20ks, and you're just doing super well with it. Pan has been so relevant because of that, and then there's a surge of seeing her again when we had counterplays, and now that we're playing cards on our opponent's turn, this is when this card really started to take off, because it's just when you play a battle card, so it's the first time you play a battle card for the turn. So it doesn't mean just your turn, it means your opponent's turn too. So now that we have like arrival cards, and we have like some counterplay card, like the multi-counter cards, both of those are fantastic for this. The original target for this was the the free play Vegeta, Majin Vegeta, that it's the 15k, you combo it for 10k, and then when you combo with it, it comes into play for free, and it's a 15k, so you use Pan. So not only do you get a 10k defense on your opponent's turn, but you get to play this thing for free, and then you get to draw a card too. So it's like a super combo in a lot of ways. And then you have a 15k to start swinging with next turn as well. And not only that, but if you think of like overwhelm cards too, that you can just play for 0 energy that are 15k, there's just so much synergy that this Pan has. She's a red Saiyan, but she's also a red Earthling, which also has a lot of potential for being a lot of good decks. So just a generically really good leader. It's been seeing a lot of play. Like, this card's over 2 years old now, almost 2 years old, and people are still playing it. People still swear by this leader, and it's just for a really good reason. And probably like one of the first good untapped 2 leaders they've ever made, and it's still just fantastically good. And people are still running it, and I think it's still a viable leader in a lot of archetypes.
Number 4.
Next up, we've got Unbreakable Super Saiyan Songoku. This is such a weird card to be good, because it's not like, it has like nothing to do with any of it. It's just this one little auto effect that says when a card evolves in this card, or if you combo with this card, draw 1. Just the fact that you can combo with this card and gain card advantage with it is really all this card really cares about, and that's why it's been so good. And just, if you're running red, just play this card anyways, right? Because it's either a charge card, or you can get some combo power and some almost free cycle, right? And not only that, but if you like, when this card really took off was when we started to see Mill Janemba, and Janemba was just trying to stall you out for as long as possible, and they didn't really care about energy. And this didn't even have like an energy, like you could, blue was the main color for Janemba, but you'd run this, and you'd also run the 4-drop cell that has pretty much the same effect, and you don't care because you can just use the colorless to combo with this card, and then you get the 10k and the draw. So he's just been really good for such a long time. He's such a generically good card, and I still think people are using him just because he's good combo and good drawing. And if you're running like against with a like some arrival targets as well, he could be good for that. And there, more and more cards are letting you like combo stuff for free as well, so he's good for that. He's just super good. I've never ever seen this card actually hit the board. He has like an evolve cost for 3, and he becomes a 4-drop with barrier. It's just like a weirdly statted card, and it's just so funny to me that it's just literally this one card, this one line of text, and he's just super duper good, and people will keep running him just for this line of text. So it's funny for that. He's also like the unofficial super combo for Prison Frieza, because they didn't really, he's a 4-drop, and Prison Frieza can only run 3 or less. This card will never be like terrible, and if there's chances, if you're playing like a deck that either needs to be really defensive, or it's just red anyways, and like even there are decks that are running like GT Goku that have like the 1-drop that searches top 7, like this is still a viable card just to find from that too. So good card. It's super simple, and that's why it's so good.
Number 3.
In the top 3, we've got the Flying Nimbus, probably one of the best cards, and probably still like one of the best negates they've ever printed. What does it do? It says negate the attack, then you may place 1 yellow card in your hand in the drop area. If you do so, your opponent can only attack 1 more time with battle cards for the duration of the turn. This was such a disgusting negate for so long, and really is the only reason that we were able to survive such kind of aggro formats in a sense, was because you could play this card and you could just make sure that you could live 1 more turn, right? That was literally the reason you run this card, is you discard 1 extra card in your hand just to hopefully survive 1 more turn and make sure that your opponent can't swarm you with a bunch of small guys. And like when you had like veggies, and you also had Storm and decks like that, this was such a killer card to make sure that they couldn't just overrun you with those cards. So just a fantastic card. People are still using it today, and it's so bad too. Like you feel so bad. Like if your opponent's trying to swing with their leader first to try to get like draw a card to see what they want to do for the rest of the turn, you just hit them with a flying Nimbus, and they just feel really bad because they can only swing one more time now with battle cards. Now I guess this card will be a little bit less in favor because it doesn't get around unison cards. Because your opponent can only attack one more time with battle cards for duration of the turn. So if you stop a swing with a battle card with this, they can swing one more time with battle cards, and they can swing with leader cards as much as they want, and unison cards as much as they want. So that's like the first nerf that this card's gotten in like 2 years. But it's just fantastic. People are still going to be running it, even though it doesn't get around unison cards. And it's just been reprinted so many times too, because it's just that good. So fantastic card. And let's get to the top two. Both of them, I think, could be really up in the air, but we'll get to the top two.
Number 2.
All right, who saw this boy coming? If you don't know what this card is, and you know what, there's probably a lot of people who don't know what this card does, especially like the year after this card was released. People weren't really running it because it became such a weird mental game where either people aren't running Cronoa or they are, right? And you have to kind of figure out what format people are doing, if people are opening up Cronoa in their side deck or not. But if you don't know what this card does, auto, so it's a super combo, and auto, when you combo with this card, if your leader card is yellow and your life is at 4 or less, this card gains plus 10k power for duration of the turn, then choose up to one Saiyan card in your hand with any cost of 3 or less and play it. Boy, let me tell you, there are so many ding-dang Saiyans with energy cost 3 or less. There's no color restriction. There's no restriction at all. There's nothing. It's just Saiyan, the most common tag in this game, 3 or less, which is just stupidly high to play. Like 3 energy for free is like dumb. It's dumb how good that is. And then when you consider that it gets played during the combo step, and there's so many ding-dang cards that activate when you play them, that blow up stuff. For example, explosive power Songoku from the other list, that was like the immediate combo. But there's when veggies were going full swing, it's because you could play veggies for free with this Shugesh, and your hand you already had like 100 cards in hand, so it didn't matter that you didn't get like the draw one from your super combo. And yeah, there's just so many cards that were just so tempting with it, especially when like Height of Mastery became a thing with the Path to Greatness. That was a 3-drop Saiyan, so you could just play it for free, and then you could use 4 energy go into the super rare. It's just dumb. And so the reason this card's at number 2 is because it didn't get banned immediately. It kind of was around for like a year and a half, and it really was this weird kind of thing where if you wanted to be really greedy, you'd run like 2 Shugesh, and then you probably would win game 1 because you have Shugesh in your deck. And then either your opponent runs Cronoa, or they don't. And that's really the really dumb part about this. And like when this card first came out, sideboards had like minimal amount of cards. It was really easy to slot in 3 or 4 Cronoas in there. But as the game kept going and going, it just became harder and harder, and there are more and more Saiyans that this card could abuse. There was like the tournament promo one, I don't remember his name, but it's a 3-drop Goku that when you play him, you untap 2 energy. Like that's stupid, right? You get it, just play this Goku for free. You untap 2 energy. You could be tapped out, but you get 2 energy, and then you can start doing extra stuff like beans and stuff. And it could just be so versatile. If you had the 2-drop Dash Pack Kaba out, you could play Kale because it became a 3-drop in your hand. You just wipe your opponent's board with that, like during the battle step. Like it was dumb. It was interactions we haven't seen before, and really didn't see again until Arrival became a thing a year and a half later. And actually it was like 2 years later, right? Like it was just insane. And I'm happy this card got banned. It should have gone banned immediately, but it didn't. They decided that they didn't want to do ban lists. They wanted to print counters to it like afterwards, and they kind of worked, and it kind of deterred people from playing it. But it was just like this really bad game of are they playing Cronoa, are they playing or are they not? And either way, someone's feeling really bad about it. Either you feel really bad that that you're playing Cronoa and your deck gets completely countered by it, or your opponent feels really bad for not including Cronoa in their sideboard. So that's enough talk about this guy, and let's go to the number 1 card.
Number 1.
All right, who saw it come? I mean, I can't not put this at number 1, right? Am I right? This was literally the first card that they banned ever. So if you don't know what this guy does, and this is not the reboot leader, this is the OG Songoku SS3. So permanent, you can only place up to 6 energy, which is like whatever. The games would end at like 4 or 5 energy. But active main, place 1 card from your hand, you drop area. If you have no energy, choose 2 cards in your life, and add them to your energy. And then when your life is at 4 lives, you may draw 2 cards and flip this card over. Permanent, you can only place up to 6 energy, and auto at the end of your turn, choose up to 3 of your energy, switch to active mode, and when this card attacks, draw 1. That's a lot of text, but essentially what this means is this card is just bonkers crazy. So let's look at this active main. So place 1 card from your hand, you drop area, and if you have no energy, choose 2 cards in your life and add them to your energy. So you would use 1 card from your hand to make 2 energy in there from your life, right? So this was almost all plus, right? You start off with 2 energy. You don't get to choose what they are technically, right? They're kind of randomized, but you get 2 energy, and you're also at 6 life, which at the early parts of the game is super duper good. Being able to be at low life early in the game and awaken that much faster. When this card was, in set 3 and set 2, kind of, and even set 4 for a little bit, there's just kind of like this whole dance where you want to make sure that your opponent is like awkwardly at like 5 life for so long, right? You get so much advantage for being the only one awakened because you get draw cards, and the front side of most leaders, you didn't get to draw cards. So if you could just stall your opponent out and just gain a lot of advantage with your awakened leader, you were probably in a really good set to go there. And so you start off with 6 life, which means that you only had to play like 2 cards to like you could play like from the next set on set 4, you could play the 1-drop Bardock, the successor, play him, take 1 card from your life, and then you just swap him back into either a 2-drop or literally nothing, and you just play him again, and assume you got 2 yellow energy from your life, and then you're awakened, you flip over, draw 2 cards, you're 15k, and you've got 2 energy, and your opponent is unawakened, has a smaller hand than you, and has 0 energy if you went first. So it's just super dumb, and there's kind of like a little bit of a crisis, especially like how funny it was because Mecha Frieza was such a big force, and this was doing work when Mecha Frieza was around. Like this was like the alternative choice when Mecha Frieza was around. But then after that, this card was was pretty good, and then set 4 was also a really bonkers set, and just drove this to being completely overpowered. And they had this kind of crisis of like, okay, do we also errata this guy, or do we ban it? And they eventually decided to ban it, which I thought was the correct choice in so many ways. And it was a really cool leader, but it really just came to this point. Like it did, even though like this was a blue leader, you could just choose any color you wanted, and it'd be super viable, right? If you're playing mono green, you're fine because you have to really have this choice of like, is this deck better with this leader? And 9 times out of 10, Songoku would be the best leader for the deck, just because starting off with 1 more energy and being able to just choose 3 of your energy to just flip to active mode at the end of your turn just means you have 3 more energy to pedal with at the every turn, which is just crazy. And this is also during a time where it was very common for you to tap out just to play stuff on curve, compared to nowadays where you kind of leave 1 or 2 energy open if you're trying to play a more control deck. This deck didn't matter. You could just tap out, be really greedy, and then you get 3 energy back anyways. It was just really dumb. Because even if you like awaken on turn 1, you'd have a 15k leader, you'd have more cards in hand, you'd have this 1-drop Bardock, and maybe even like a Bardock, or even like you could have like 2 2-drops out because you could successor. You'd also have 2 energy open, and it'd just be really, really dumb. And that's not even talking about Flute. We'll talk about Flute in a couple weeks. But there's a really good reason why this card was banned. There's a good reason that they really couldn't, like, there wasn't like a really good silver bullet for this card, unlike Shugesh, because it was so good. Like on turn 1, Shugesh, you had to at least awaken for it, and it was restricted to yellow leaders. And I don't know. I could go on forever about this card. I'm happy it's banned. Definitely the best card from this set. And I kind of like, I don't know. Looking back, I kind of wish he was back. And maybe if the reboot leader was a little bit better, I'd be happy. But I do feel a little nostalgia for it, and this is a really cool card. So that's it for this. Let me know what you guys think. Probably the top 5 was a little bit predictable, but maybe the top 5 or like the 10 to 6 slot were a little bit more controversial. So let me know what you guys think about that, and I'll catch you all next time.